Exploring Oral Histories for Cultural Competence, Giving Voice to the Voiceless. My name is Dr. Corinne Ingram, and this is Reforming and Transforming Adult Education in Challenging Times at the American Association for Adult and Continuing Education Conference. I have an EDD in Adult Education, Master of Education in Instructional Design, Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education, and an Associate of Science degree in Child Development. I also have extensive experience in developing curriculum, managing and facilitating adult basic education instruction and programs, alternative instruction, behavioral and intervention strategies, providing workplace readiness instruction, and I provided adult basic education and workplace readiness instruction for detention center populations. I am also the CEO of Community-Based Research for Engagement and Education. At CBRE, we work to improve adult education, community education and literacy programs, teacher professional development, and workplace learning through action and participatory action research, case studies, narrative inquiry, phenomenological inquiry, ethnographic methods, cultural historical research. Adults with low literacy skills are 2 times more likely to be unemployed, 3 times as likely to be in poverty, 4 times as likely to be in poor health, 8 times as likely to be incarcerated, and by 2024, 80% of job openings will be middle skill and higher. With these statistics in mind, we've developed our book Advocacy and Lifelong Learning, an exploration of common people of uncommon valor by Dr. Ray Mullardany and Dr. Corinne Ingram. By celebrating others and their differences, we are honoring and celebrating ourselves. This book features oral histories of a variety of people from different life biographies to capture each person's mechanisms of learning, experiential wisdom, and overcoming struggles to improve quality of life. The purpose of this book is to shed light on human complementarities within cultural and linguistic differences. By understanding people who are different from us, we can cultivate a deeper and more integral understanding of people. The overall goal is to encourage a lifelong learning culture by celebrating and honoring our social, racial, economic, and linguistic and cultural differences. Each sector and stakeholder within a community has a role and function in addressing hate and divisiveness through developing bilateral and multilateral collaborations and serving as a positive model for all people to begin the conversation of loving and honoring all who are culturally and linguistically different. I encourage you to consider 2 lines of thought. Number 1, what are the effects of underlying factors or assumptions that skew your views of those who are culturally and linguistically different from you? And number 2, to what extent do you exhibit or condone verbal, behavioral, or environmental slights that cast a negative connotation on those cultures, traditions, attitudes, language, and customs that are culturally and linguistically different from yours? In our research study, 54 professionals were interviewed using a semi-structured process focused on the most impactful events in their lives and how the events shaped who they are and what they do professionally. 12 interviews were chosen for the book based on a culturally diverse representation of data. According to our findings, each interview or oral history consisted of 4 stages, including number 1, trauma, the crisis point, number 2, growth, healing and learning from the crisis point. Number 3, mastering the subject matter, information you need to know to be a subject matter expert, community educator and advocate. Number 4, becoming a community educator, instructing a population. Number 5, becoming an advocate, actively fighting for equity and justice. Individual growth exercises were developed for the reader to develop their own mindfulness and cultural competence. The reader is asked to identify their own assumptions related to each story, oral history chapter as a self-awareness strategy. Next, the reader is asked to identify their own prejudicial experiences based on the themes of each chapter as a mindfulness strategy. Lastly, the reader is asked how they can challenge norms to welcome and include the chapter author into their own community as an advocacy strategy. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. A quote by Carl Jung. This quote tells us how important oral histories truly are. How are you promoting advocacy in your practice? If you have questions, please leave them in the chat area, and please tell me what are your thoughts on these topics. Thank you so much for attending my presentation.